there. I think it is. I think it is now streaming, yes. Hello, and welcome. This is going to be the final tier list for the foreseeable future. Ever, maybe? Because this is...
Save the best for last.
Yeah, until Chaos Dwarves come out, or whatever's next. This will be the last tier list of Total War in total. It's Slaanesh. The Dark Prince, the... What are the titles? Go through the titles. I'm joined by my resident degenerate Alexis.
Man, female, thing, thirsty god.
Thank you. It's probably more than that, but it's not like Cetra or anything. So we will be getting started. First I need to put this link in Find a Mentor so that people know that I'm streaming. In case they have any Slaanesh questions. Oh, that's my voice.
In case they really missed your streams.
They really do miss them. Listen, man. I've got 66 subscribers. How many do you have? That's what I thought. Irrelevant. You are an irrelevant...
What platform are we thinking here?
What?
Yeah, what platform?
YouTube.
Okay, no, I don't have a YouTube account. Well, I have YouTube, but you know, I don't invest.
Weakness. Oh yeah, its name got changed now to Ask Advice, so I guess I just posted.
Yeah. I mean, probably reasonable. Nobody. I don't think any of the mentors play the game much anymore.
Yeah, and also Find a Mentor kind of like gives the impression that somebody's going to get a one-on-one mentor session.
Yeah, it does.
Which I think happened like once or twice. That was it.
Maybe when we play the game more. I think
when Mortal Empires comes out, yeah.
I want to play it again.
Alright, let's get started with the old roster. So first off, oh fuck, all the Slaanesh rosters, all the pictures look so similar that I have to figure out their names. They're all just pink things riding other pink things. It doesn't help.
Yeah. So are you starting with lords or units or?
No, we leave Lord and Heroes for the next video.
Okay.
Just gonna go straight into the units.
I don't know this part, but bad.
Yeah, you're fucking weak. Right, I need to make sure this is there, and then the tabs are lined up. Yes, there. Okay, cool. Right, so this first one, what is time to match the picture to the horrific monster? It's Heartseekers of Slaanesh. That's the most expensive cavalry of Slaanesh.
Yes, and they are worth the price, I would say. They're very, very good.
Compared to regular Seekers, you'd say they're worth it?
I'd say they definitely perform. They survive a lot more. Like, I think Slaanesh is a faction where if you make mistakes, it hurts pretty bad. They're kind of like that elf playstyle.
Yeah.
But Heartseekers always seem to survive a lot of things. They seem to kill things that I don't really think they should be able to kill. Like, if you put them even head-to-head with other heavy cav, they usually survive and do a hell of a lot of damage.
They do get their Soul Scent ability. Do you notice that do much over time? It's the one where they have to have, like, routing units nearby, don't they?
Yes. I think all of the Slaanesh units that get that ability, it works really, really well.
That's really good.
Most noticeable is on, like, Lords, though. I think Nakari gets it as well. I notice it most on him.
Does Nakari get it?
I think he does.
Yeah, he gets a similar one. He gets... Oh no, it's just destroyed. He gets the destroyed one. I don't know if he did... Oh, is it Soul Siphon is the one? Yeah, it's Soul Siphon. He gets like a direct damage thing. They all have... they like playing with leadership.
Yeah.
So in terms of a tier list, where would you rank them? Because they are very expensive, but you say they're worth their cost?
I would say... They're a unit I bring every game, so I definitely think they're like up there.
Yeah, up there.
I would say the only thing that downplays them with the whole theme of Slaanesh is you set up a lot of ambushes and flanking maneuvers, which is something you can't do with one unit. So I maybe wouldn't put them as S tier, I'd probably put them as A tier. Yeah. Saying that they're a very good unit, I bring them every game, but
they're not like a you must have, they're super good.
They're more like a
super broken or anything.
Try to think of the word. They're like a flex unit. Just a
flex, just a flex on
like,
someone.
See if you've got the money for these things and you can build them along with your other army. They just by that point I think you've kind of won and you're just flexing bringing this unit because it's doing what your other units do just a million times better. But it doesn't do it on its own. So I'd say it's very good but not S tier. It's not like I always bring this unit that carries you.
On the other end of the spectrum, we have the cheapest cavalry, the Hellstriders of Slaanesh. These are just cheap old Marauders with spears, so they have an anti-large bonus. They also have Soul Hunters, which means whenever they make a kill, the unit makes a kill, they get like a damage resistance and leadership and shit.
Yes. No. Hellstriders are literally the unit I bring every game off, usually 4 of them.
4 of them, yeah. I mean, I do see, even I bring them a lot. They just seem very effective for the cost. I mean, they're 600 gold, they're 100 speed, and they have like, what's the anti-large they get? It's like 15, so that's 40. That's 39 melee attack. with poisonous and immunity psychology.
Yeah,
Vanguard causes fear.
They're a really good unit. They're bloated. I mean, if you look at their abilities, they're bloated. They probably don't deserve to be immune to psychology and everything else.
No, yeah. Actually, I think everything in the Slaanesh roster is immune to psychology. Yeah. It's either a demon or it's a marauder, which is immune to psychology.
I don't think it needs it, honestly. I think they're good enough because it's... Generally speaking, the reason I bring so many of them are always 4 or sometimes 5 is they don't, like, 1-to-1 head-to-head, they don't really win a lot of fights, but 2-to-1, they beat pretty much any cavalry. 2-to-1, they'll beat, like, Bear Cav, and 2 of them are still, like, 400 less than a Bear Cav unit.
In terms of cost efficiency.
So, yeah, just
very good.
2 of them running around will destroy, like, any big, heavy Cav unit, which I think's one of the biggest troubles with Slaanesh. It's usually big stuff that can kind of crumple your little infantry and your demonettes and stuff.
They're very much like a... Well, I think that goes for, like one of the ways to counter the Slaanesh playstyle is just to blob up. Like, I know Nurgle tends to do quite well against Slaanesh because just Great and Clean Woods are so hard to kill.
Yeah, that's why you should just run away from them.
Yeah, you, like, what these do is they're just a key tool on isolating something and picking it off.
Yes. I would say in terms of the faction itself, I think they're an S tier unit. I think there's something you bring
always, and you always use it, and you always get your money back.
Yeah, like literally every single game I bring at least 4, sometimes 5 of these every game.
Oh, someone makes a good point in chat. Maybe is it something with the Slaanesh tabletop that everything gets immunity psychology? I mean, it makes sense in lore, sort of.
Hell yeah.
Sort of makes sense. But why Slaanesh? Why not, like, the angriest people alive, Khorne, that they run away?
I think it's maybe they're so depraved that I've seen so much shit, nothing scares them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's literally, they've seen worse.
They see, like, Nurgle just, shitting out demons, and he's like, you know what, I fapped to this before.
Yeah, it matches up. Yeah, that's an S tier.
Nothing to me.
Now, one unit I never actually really use is the other variant of this that comes with the Whip and Shield, the Hell Scourge variant. That have better stats, but...
The stats are fine. They do their job. I just feel like, compared to the Seekers, which are, granted they're more expensive, I just feel like they're not worth getting. They're only 600. They're 650 if I remember right.
These ones are 700. Yeah, so there's 100 difference between the Spear variant and the Whip.
They do fine against infantry. Like, don't get me wrong. Even like Spear infantry, if you get rear charges into them, they really do work. The same as the Hellstriders, the normal ones.
Mm-hmm.
They do work. I just think compared to the cost increase for the Seekers, which is 300 gold more, the benefit you get of taking Seekers is way better.
It's like you've got your Hellstriders to take out other large, and then if you want to start taking out infantry, you take Seekers.
Yeah, I don't really think the Hellstriders have a place in it because it might be a problem with Warhammer 3 particularly because Warhammer 3 doesn't really have a whole lot of these like cheap units that I feel like Hellstriders would be good against.
No, it's true.
The closest thing I think would be like, backline peasant archers or like backline and that sort of stuff.
We're missing out on those cheap chaffy infantries in this.
Yeah,
in this
which
game.
Hellstriders do just as well if you're hitting archers. Like the regular ones just do
they
just as much more.
All the same, yeah.
So
they're probably just missing a place as it stands, aren't they?
Yeah, and unfortunately, all the cheap infantry in Warhammer 3 have spears. Like Cossars have spears, peasant spearmen have spears. So they just struggle against everything else. Maybe in Immortal Empires they'll be better, but from what I've played with them so far, they're just kind of like not performing anywhere in particular.
Where would you put them on a tier list then? Because they're like the outwardly terrible. It's just really
it's like future proofing. I'd probably just say B.
B, yeah. I think this is the last cavalry. Yeah, it's the Seekers, the mid-tier one. These are pretty good, I think, aren't they? They're pretty good.
These are pretty good as well.
To us, all the Slaanesh cav is pretty good. Like there's
They have that one outlier just now, the Hellstrider Scourges, which I think just don't have a place right now. But other than that, I would say the Seekers themselves probably another A tier pick. All their cav is really good.
Yeah, another A tier.
Does its job extremely well. Rips through armor, destroys backlines, massive rear charges.
Interestingly enough, the Seekers only, relative to like the Hellstriders with the Hellscourges, they only have 8 more melee attack. And of course, they have all the things that come with being a demon as well.
Yeah, the 8 melee attack is enhanced with the rear charges, so 8 melee attack is actually substantial.
Yeah. They do lose out on the old Soul Hunters effect though. It's a shame. Because they get the Which these versions don't get anything, they just get the physical resistance, which I suppose is pretty good as well.
Yes. And yet they still do more damage. I think it's just the damage they deal is
Could also be the magic, the fact that they get magic attack, so against other demons they'll flatten.
Yeah, there's also a lot of demons in this game.
A lot of demons. Can't wait to see all my ghosts get fucking melted in Warhammer in Mortal Empires, because god, they're so good, they're so useless. So yeah, another A tier pick for those. Furies of Slaanesh.
Furies, they're... I mean...
They're Furies, but in my opinion, of all the factions, they probably slot into Slaanesh the worst.
They're the worst. I think they lose 1-to-1 to every other Fury.
Yeah, that as well. And also the arm piercing is like not needed.
Yeah, I think it's very... Each Fury has its own style. Now, the problem is I think the Slaanesh one's really useless. There's not, again, I've only been able to use them in Warhammer 3, there's not really a lot of scenarios where armor piercing on Furies is a great help. And even on even targets you would like to use them against armor piercing against, they just didn't win against. Like, you could go put it against like a fucking Ogre Iron Breaker and it still would kill it.
Yeah, like literally I think the only unit you'd use these against as opposed to other Furies would be like Jade Crossbowmen. But even then, I think they also still lose the Furies, it just takes longer.
Yeah, they do the exact same as every other Fury. You put them on archers, you put them on missiles, backlines, harassing, but the armor piercing just doesn't seem needed for that. It does give them a little bit of like flexibility where maybe you can recharge them into heavy cavalry or recharge them into infantry.
Yeah, but it's like the rest of your roster's already so good at getting around into the back line that it's like you don't even need them.
Literally, like why waste Furies on it when you've got anything else that's going to do it and be 100 times better?
Which is why I'm tempted. Even though I put in all the other tier lists, I put Furies at an S tier. For this one, I'm tempted either A or B.
I would say B.
Yeah, B. It's just that they don't, again, they miss a sort of place in the army.
Yeah, they're very... If you put them against where they're intended to go, they're just to kill archers and things that are in an annoying position that your cav can't get to, or just harass missiles before you get in close.
Like any other army, they'd be great, but because they're in the Slaanesh army, like I can't help but put them at least B tier.
Yeah, and they also don't answer any of Slaanesh's problems to having nothing to kill Air Force.
They have so much AP.
That's their only thing they have to kill air units, and they are still terrible at it.
They're awful. Slaanesh needs a bit of help in that department. Next, I think that is... Yeah, those are regular demonettes of Slaanesh.
Regular demonettes.
Regular, they say that, they just say regular demonettes.
Yeah, they just say, we are regular, we're
probably one of the fastest infantry in the game, even with the combined 3 games total. Oh, yeah. 54 speed is very quick. There are I'm pretty sure Empire Knights aren't that fast.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, what are Empire Knights? I think they're like 50 to 60.
I will figure that out right now. Oh, I need to go back to a different game when Warhammer 3.
They are fast!
Warhammer.
Which does offer a really different playstyle for Old Slaanesh, them being so quick.
Definitely, while I'm waiting on the Warhammer 2, stats loading up for memes, both the Demonettes, Exalted and Regular, are very, very good. I think they rip through 90% of other infantry. I generally, even against head-to-head enemies, even against things that on paper I'm kind of like, oh, maybe that wouldn't turn out so well, like Forsaken, they still do serious work. I think the only Forsaken they have trouble against is the Zinch one.
Yeah, because Zinch has the old barrier and magic damage and shit.
But they're like 50 gold more, they're 150, aren't they?
Let me tell you. Well, how much for the 850, so they're 50 more.
So they lose to a unit 50 gold more than that, and the same cost, so I'm not entirely shocked. They still do the good damage, but it's just as good damage. They do very well.
Pretty good. And they also have their devastating flanker as well, so they
Empire Knights are a little bit faster, by the way. They're 66.
66. So damn close.
Not too much faster.
No, not that too much. Yeah, so they're pretty decent. I wouldn't say. Do you bring them like in every matchup? I suppose you do. I guess. Yeah. Would you say S tier for them?
It depends on what type of game it is. Depending on what factions I'm up against, I'll treat them out for 2 cultists because they summon. Yeah,
you can just summon them. Yeah, that's something.
I do usually like to bring 1 or 2 of them, at least have them available, 1 or 2 units of them available every game. It's hard to say I'd say A tier because they're not a unit that you can mindlessly. I'd say if it was a unit where you can just point and click at something that destroys it, I'd say that would be much more worthy of an S tier.
Yeah, it's not really a unit sort of like carries the build as much.
Yes, they're
another cog in the machine, so to speak.
But yeah, they don't carry the game, but they're very good.
So the Exalted variant, that is the upgraded variant. Other than the huge stat increase, they get what is it? They get the Soul Scent, and they also get their Charmed effect on hit, as well as of course a huge stat increase. That's for 450 gold extra. Said these guys are quite good as well.
They are everything Demonettes do but better, and they're also extremely durable. They survive a really long time.
They do have more HP as well. Noticed a lot of Slaanesh units have sort of like lower HP, except for Marauders.
Yeah. They really don't notice it. I think it's because they do so much damage. They
it evens up.
They're an extremely powerful unit. They're more of a click and forget type thing. I normally bring one of them in a game just to have there.
Would you say it's like weak to anything in particular? Would you say there's anything they need to watch out for?
Honestly, it's see if they get rear charged by a big cavalry.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like if you make sometimes you get those if you get a bad situation and you're like tunnel visioning on one engagement. Sometimes you run Exalted Demonettes behind something, and then there's a cavalry unit then charging the back of them. When they get sandwiched, it's really, really bad. Because it's like any expensive unit, it's very elf playstyle as well. When they get slammed by a lot of things and cornered and just...
Yeah, but obviously that is the thing with these Exalted Demonettes. Unlike most Elite Cav, they're a spread out formation and they're really fast.
Yes.
So big old spells won't work as well on them.
They just have that one issue of getting trapped.
Yeah.
And they are also very expensive, which is why I think they're not an S tier unit. I would give them another A tier position, although if you want to compare them to Demonettes...
Yeah, which one would you bring more often?
It's purely on... I bring them each every game. I'll bring one Exalted and generally two regular. Every game. So in terms of how much they're brought with equal... Try to think of the word for it.
Weight.
Brought an equal amount of times. Like I generally pick a unit I bring every game. In terms of the effectiveness, the Exalted Demonettes are definitely stronger, which is why it's very weird putting them in the same tier. But I think they're in a different scenario. They're good against different units. So like if you're going up against like a horde of Nurglings or like Cathay people or something like that, regular ones are fine. If you end up going up against Khorne and he's got, Bloodthirsters or he's got his
Exalted Bloodthirsters,
Chaos Warrior drill weapons, the Exalted ones will tear through them as well. Like, we saw that on, I think Zerk did a video on them, and even the Exalted Demons were tearing through things. So,
yeah, so A tier for them as well then.
I would say tier as well, although just make it clear that, they're not of the tier list I've gone with here, I've noticed, is not in terms of how strong the unit is, it's more how useful it is in the army.
Yes, which can also mean how strong it is, depending on the unit.
Yes.
So now we're on to the more chaffy infantry, Marauders of Slaanesh. Starting with the basic variant that has the sword.
The basic variant are decent. I think it's when you look at their stat line, they are very good.
Yeah, very good for the cost.
But they don't have anything to deal with any of the current Warhammer 3 factions.
No.
So they don't have... The bonus versus infantry is nice.
Yeah, they have huge melee attack versus other infantry. They get 39 for 400 gold, that's insane.
Yeah, they do. It's crazy. I feel like they'll be a lot better in Warhammer 2 against, like, see when you go into matches against, like, Empire and things like that, Antonia even, I think they'll really show how good they are there. But right now, against Warhammer 3 factions, they don't have any magic attacks to deal with demons.
And they don't have any armor piercing to deal with.
They don't have any armor. They've only got a broad shield to stop getting, the entire love of God shot out of them. They're just in a really awkward place right now where none of their bonuses don't really have a huge impact against any of the current factions.
No, yeah, it's fair.
So they're the ones I generally bring the least of. The other two, different story, but these ones are not very commonly picked by me anyway.
So would you put these like B?
I would say B for now. They could... I would say this unit along with...
Maybe C even?
I'd say B just for future-proofing, and I'd say probably this unit and also the Hell Scourge Striders that we put in B tier as well, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say both of them with Immortal Empires could definitely go up.
We could definitely see a change, yeah. We have to redo them all eventually.
Yeah, B for now, but definitely could go up. If I say, to be honest, I'd probably put them B and I might even put the Furies in C.
You might put Furies in C, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say...
I'd say that is something that could also get better with more Empires. Furies, because...
They're definitely, like, I hate Furies. I think that's the problem. See, at least when I bring Marauders,
I'm having
There's
fun.
some things where I'm thinking, yeah, I still see them hit things, and I'm like, you know what, they're kind of doing their job. Freeze, I'm just like, what? Why?
Why are
I
you here?
only have you because I need to have you to hit your things, and you still die. It's just
Yeah,
sad.
it's like Spheres are literally just there because they're the only option. Like every other faction has like different options besides Furies
Yeah,
to an extent.
that's again going with the theme of the tier list being based on what they do for the army. I'd say that's the biggest thing because the only role I think they really have is to deal with air units and backlining. Backlining half your army does, and they don't deal with air units like they're supposed to. So.
Yeah, not really. I think there's any air units in the game besides like balloons that they'll do anything against.
Yeah, or maybe actually, should I put them in C?
Yeah,
I'm thinking about future units now, and rethinking everything. I would say put the Marauders in C as well because I think the other
yeah,
Marauders
those down.
won't be. Yeah.
Alright, speaking of which, other Marauders, Spear Marauders. So these guys get a big increase to melee defense, and then some drops in some of those stats, but they get the charge reflection, charge defense against large, and then they get anti-large of 15.
Yes, they do.
That's pretty good anti-large.
And I would say they are a very important unit. They're your only anti-large infantry.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good ones.
Pretty good at it, yeah. I mean, you compare these guys to, like Empire Spearmen. These guys definitely have bigger stats. They're just literally just Empire Spearmen on steroids, basically.
Yeah.
I
think they're very, very good units. All the Marauders are, again, they have the benefits, I should say, like immune psychology. The charge reflection is new. I don't know how all the old factions will compare with those when they get added, but yeah, they do really well. It's not like see like Empire Spearmen as well. Sometimes if you've got a big enough cavalry unit, you just ram them into it anyway, and they'll eventually kill them. I feel like there's not really a unit in Warhammer 2 you can do that with. Even like the Blood Crushers and things like that. If you throw them into those spears, they'll still take a hell of a lot of damage.
So what would you put them on a tier list?
I would say, in terms of common, in terms again of how much they benefit the army, I would probably have to say A because they're still a unit I bring to at least 2 of every game.
Now we're going on to the whip variant of that, where the whip variant just have big stats basically. They got way bigger stats that mostly focus on the melee defense department, like 42 melee defense, 550. That's like Dwarf Warriors levels of melee defense. They're just lacking the armor a bit.
They are your front line for a lot of times.
They're a holding unit in a faction with. That's pretty much the only holding unit that Slaanesh have besides like Chaos Spawn.
Yeah. I think in Immortal Empires, this is why I think about future-proofing. I think the regular Marauders will be just fine as a front line because they won't have as many problems against so many old world factions. But right now, the Hell Scourges are like they don't. Again, they're lacking the magical attack and that sort of thing. They don't have any AP, but the poison helps massively. The massive defense helps massively. Sorry, did I say poison?
You said poison. No poison.
No poison on these ones. But the melee defense is amazing. I was thinking of Sisters of Slaughter for some reason.
And I just asked, this is Alexis helping Willow. Yes, this is the first time Alexis has been here. It's because he's off, because it's the Diamond Jubilee.
Yeah.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen.
Get a day off.
Yes.
God save the Queen.
Woo.
Yeah, but these guys have really big 42 melee defense. They're just a holding unit, an army with no holding units. Yes. Like, this is the thing that you stick there so that you can ram them in the back.
Pretty much. Future-proofing, I'd say slightly B, because I'd say right now, in terms of Warhammer 3, in terms of how often they're picked, they could be an A-tier unit, but I see the dependency on them going down. So.
Oh, I see. So you think they're going to be worse with?
I think the other Marauders will get. So other Marauders, I said probably right now are about C, and those Marauders are A. I feel like when the balance is there a bit more, they're both going to shift towards B because the dependency on them will change.
Yeah, I can see that. I would be tempted to put I would probably rank the Spearmen and the Hell Scourges very similarly at the current time.
The only reason is I think the dependency on a unit, unless DLC comes out and we get a new anti-large unit, I think the dependency on the spears is not going to change.
That's gonna be.
That's just gonna be flat out. You need to bring them.
Yeah, I can see that. What's next then? So now we got the old monstrosities, the Fiends of Slaanesh.
Ooh.
These guys, or girls, or whatever that is, they have a couple unique things about them. That being, they're like a fast monstrous infantry. Slaanesh doesn't really have any of that. It's really the only one. They have their Sporific Musk, which applies a nice debuff to stats when they come into contact. Beyond that, they're just demons, which are really fast. So, I mean, 95 speed for Monstrous Infantry. It's quick.
Speed.
What do you think about these guys?
I think they're pretty good. I probably have a bias against this unit. Like, I probably should bring them more than I do, is the problem, because I don't really like Monstrous Infantry as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think...
I mean, you have to wonder, where is it good in the current meta?
It definitely has uses. It's especially with the Sporific Musk is very helpful with its flanking. Again, you need to think, what is it meant to be for?
It's basically the same thing as your cavalry.
Yeah, it can either do the cavalry role, or it can do that sort of old Monstrous Infantry role where you just run it through your own infantry and slam into like undefended ones. The problem is, I think right now in the game, there's not too many scenarios for the second of those two to be that effective. Like against ogres, they don't really do much because you're just monster infantry and monstrous infantry, and they just kind of
tend to clash too well, especially
slap
when
each other
better than the other.
Yeah, and ogres right now are they're kind of the monstrous infantry lads. They kind of smack everybody else, so you don't really want to go head to head with them because that's going to hurt. Good at flanking. They definitely will be a good hammer for the anvil, I think, in future.
But would you say they're a better hammer than like Seekers of Slaanesh already are for 300 less?
I wouldn't say they're better than Seekers. I would say they're better than like your Hellstriders, which is, thank God they are for 400.
Well, yeah, it should be.
The fear definitely helps against factions that aren't immune to fear.
I mean, everything has fear. That's the thing. Everything has fear.
They also have that dual role of being very quick. They'll also be a lot better at running down like archers and things like that. So they're a unit you can move around a lot.
They have a lot, obviously, because the monstrous infantry they have a bit of mass to them, so they push through a bit more. Yeah,
they can get around that backline a lot. So I think against the only faction I really noticed them good against is Cathay. Kislev not so much, because again all of their cheap infantry have spears, so it's just
and guns and bows.
Yeah, it's just a nightmare getting around them. Again, I think when it goes to more Immortal Empires, you think you've got High Elves, you've got Empire, you've got Bretonnia. They're gonna do way better just running between all those units.
But as it stands now,
as it stands now, again, one, I have a bias against Monstrous Infantry, and two, I don't really bring them. So like
B. C?
B, I'd say B. If we keep Furies in C, I think that's like a baseline. I would not say they're worse than Furies. I wouldn't say they're even... I'd say they're better than Furies. So I'd say Furies.
Alright, fair. Next we have the Keeper of Secrets, El Generico version.
I think... No.
I think really bad, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
Yeah, I think just really bad.
Way too expensive for like a discount lord.
I already see very rarely people bring any of the big lords for Slaanesh, and if you're bringing one of the big lords, why would you bring Keeper Secrets? They have obviously been changed recently, where instead of having them as a spell, they have it as a bound ability. But that's like Lash of Slaanesh, which is probably one of the worst breath spells.
Terrible spell. It looks amazing, but it's terrible.
Acquiescence, which is a -24 melee defense, probably the worst two spells they could have got.
Acquiescence is fine for sniping. Like, see if you are going to bring a big lord.
melee defense and speed.
Yeah, if you're going to bring Acquiescence, I think it's one of the ones you pick, because you just drop it on a lord, you do the damage, and then the buff wears off, you run away. That's kind of how you snipe stuff with the Slaanesh lords, but
Slaanesh
it's too expensive. Its second spell sucks, and it doesn't do anything unique. I think
nothing special.
Like its comparison would be like a Keeper of Secrets or like a Bloodthirster for Khorne, but those bringing that unit are like way more. Those units have way more impact. Like a Great Unclean One offers.
Comparing them to the other three demons, the other three greater demons you can get, they're just better.
Like the Khorne Bloodthirster, you can go the Air Squad. You can go the Air Squad if you bring double Bloodthirster.
Yeah.
You can go Tzeentch and just have another big bird that flies around.
Big bird, which is cheaper than a Soul Grinder, and it's actually better in melee than one.
Yeah, and it's got spells.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Two really good ones as well. Compare Pink Flame to like Lash of Slaanesh.
Lash, yeah.
So, might be the worst unit in the roster.
I would agree with that. I would be
like 2,000 gold for this.
Like, compare them to Furies again, because they're the whole point. Furies I still bring every game because you kind of have to. They're your only answer to air units, even if they're not very good at it. This unit I literally never bring.
I mean, just comparing them to the Soul Grinder of Slaanesh. Like, the Soul Grinder of Slaanesh you'd bring so much more often than the Keeper of Secrets. The Soul Grinder gets his big anti-large, he gets Terrific Musk, he gets more HP, he has more armor. Only lose out on as a bit of melee stats, but when you're nuking something enough, you don't really care about melee stats as much.
Yeah. No, I would say the Keeper of Secrets is like a solid D tier. I'd say it's like, I just don't use it.
Yeah, solid D, there you go, down you go. But going on to Soul Grinder of Slaanesh.
I should mention, is this still Domination? I'm thinking of Domination.
Well, I think we're...
I don't know if there's any meme land battle
it's
strategies.
mostly Domination, but like even in land battles, I don't think necessarily. We mostly do focus on Domination, but land battle is sometimes taken into account. But
you could bring some like meme builds where you bring 3 of them. I don't know if that would be effective or not.
I don't know if that would be either. Like, I can see that with Great Unclean ones, or I can see that with literally again any other demon that isn't this one. I mean, even, the Soul Grinder even has more weapon strength in it and more charge bonus. I see her.
It's definitely it's slower, isn't it? Is it? I'm pretty sure the
by 5.
But okay.
And they both have Strider. It's a 5 speed difference.
I don't know, man.
So
buff.
Going to the Soul Grinder of Slaanesh, I think it's just better. I think if you want to take a big Goonie single entity squad, you take 2 of these and like a Generico Herald of Slaanesh.
Yeah, I think the only problem with the Soul Grinder is if you want to talk about big single entities, it's definitely the better pick if you want to go down that road. But I also think that playstyle is just something Slaanesh isn't very good at.
I mean, I would say it's also the main way you try and counter other big single entities, which Slaanesh probably is like against on Great and Clean ones. You bring 2 of these. That's a strategy. Or against all those like big, because Slaanesh does struggle dealing with big single entities sometimes.
It is true. I think it depends on the game mode again, because if it's Domination, I tend to just run away. Like, best thing to do in Nurgle is to split them up.
Yeah.
And then it's way easier to dunk on one of them. Like, even all your little Hellstriders and little sticks can bring down a Great Unclean one if you just split them up and then run away whenever he brings his friends over. The land battles, though, I do agree, because that's a lot more of a pain in the ass where the army can literally just blob and you're kind of forced to go to them. There's no reason for that army to split up at that point anymore.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, the Soul Grinders are way, way better. So
it's also sort of important to note with like Slaanesh obviously likes playing with the enemy leadership a lot. If the enemy has low leadership, they get a lot of buffs. Soul Grinder is really the cheapest way of causing terror. It's fast, you can run it through, cause terror, and it gives a big leadership buffs for all your other units to get like
True. For a demon faction, there's not a whole lot of terror.
No, there isn't. It's literally just the Lords and the Soul Grinder and the Keeper of Secrets. That's it. That causes the old terror.
Yeah, I'd say overall I'd probably put them... I'd say a B tier.
Yeah, B. I think B. Yeah, I'd say they're probably the better... They're definitely the best single entity out of the 2. By far. So I'd put them up at B for the preferable choice. Next, Spawn of Slaanesh. These guys did get buffed recently, actually. I don't think they had Spirific Musk before. They just had Devastating Flanker and better weapon strength.
I think it was bugged, because I think they had it on the title card that they had Spirific Musk, but it wasn't on the melee weapon, which was the same as the Chariots, so it used to be terrible.
Right, so now they have the Spirific Musk as well, which gives the negatives to it. Any good though? 1,000 gold?
Not against other Game 3 factions, I don't think. I think it's the same with all Spawn. I don't really think Spawn are in a great place in Game 3 overall.
Like, there's some targets for them, like Cathay, and maybe Nurgle. Not these ones though.
Yeah, overall I think Spawn are in a really rough place, and Warhammer 3, all the factions are like just innately resistant.
Yeah, they either have big physical resistance or they have big armor.
Yeah,
or both.
Or both, which is hell.
Yeah, so not a great place for Spawn. Of course, like you said, all those cheap infantry that we'll get with Mortal Empires.
Yeah, you think about all the Spawn used to like, even against like Tomb Kings and things like that. Spawn were an absolute nightmare to deal with for Tomb Kings a lot of the time. So there's even against factions like that, Spawn have really good matchups. These are going to be even better, I think, because Devastating Flanker is also a thing. The Sporrific Musk is a thing. I think when all those old factions that are a bit more weak to Spawn come back, those things will be a nightmare for some factions.
But as it is, probably like
yeah, as it is,
C,
I'd say maybe like
even
C.
D.
Yeah, C, I'd agree. I'd agree with C. I don't think they're an unpickable unit.
Yeah, I guess I see. All right, now the units I've very very small usage with all the Chariots.
The most
the big expensive single entity one first, the Exalted Seeker Chariot.
I like that one the least.
It has perfect vigor.
It has perfect vigor. The reason I hate it is just that it's one chariot.
Yeah, one big chariot is sometimes quite awkward to use.
I feel like it's very easy for Kislev to shoot against some shooting factions. I'm using Kislev as the baseline. Yeah, don't get me wrong, if you get like a side charge on something, it will delete it, but I feel like the little ones do as well.
Yeah.
And they don't cover as much land mass as the little ones do, because it's a big chariot, it's got bigger mass, it goes through, but the little ones, now that bug has been fixed, have no issues getting through like 90% of infantry anyway.
Yeah, they just creep through everything now.
Yeah, so I don't like this one that much.
I could say that, yeah.
I don't really bring it ever, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of situations where it would be good.
It's like Cathay. That's just everything. Yeah, like,
I feel like if they nerfed the multi-chariot unit to where it couldn't rush through like everything, I would maybe consider it a bit more, but right now the little chariots just have so much mass that I feel like the big one isn't worth it.
Yeah,
maybe if it was like your little chariots couldn't get through dwarves or something, or like there was too much mass and they're getting stuck, which I don't know yet. So far they're having no trouble cleaning through like Sargar, which is what was like my comparison, or Khorne or Chaos Warriors, or anything like that. The little ones still just breeze through them. So big one, I honestly have to say like D or C.
Yeah, I might say D. Yeah.
My first thought was D because
single entities do not have a good record in the Slaanesh roster.
I don't think the single entity playstyle is a playstyle that works well for Slaanesh, honestly.
Other than usually because you use all your single entities to get cultists.
Yeah.
Because the cultist of Slaanesh is probably the better one, one of the better ones.
Ooh, yeah, I think it's definitely the best hero out of all the other two heroes, to be honest.
I don't think any of the other heroes are really good for any of the demon factions apart from like Khorne. No, even the Khorne one isn't very good. So the most expensive multi one, the Hellflayers.
They are the good Chariots. I think they're the best ones you have. They will go through pretty much any infantry unit at this point. They're pretty good at getting out of cavalry.
They have their soul set as well.
Yep, mass is really good. They have their buffs that synergize with them just ripping leadership off of people.
Yeah.
Buff your whole army. I think these Hellflayers are incredibly good.
Yeah. They have the devastating flanker, which works just great with Chariots because you're just running through things constantly.
Yep, but just flat out, I can't think of bad things to say. It's a Chariot unit. It has the standard flaws that Chariot units have. Like, if you get caught on a lot of cavalry, it's going to have a lot of trouble. But you pay attention to it, you look after it, and it does a lot of work now that it's buffed. I believe the bug before was that like the charge area was too big, and then it didn't have a melee animation, so it wasn't doing damage or something like that. Which is now fixed, and now it does. It knocks everything out of the way, it cleans through units, and it does damage. So it's just, I'd say it's an A tier unit.
A tier based unit.
Very based. And then the other Chariots.
This is the cheaper variant one, yeah. There's 300
very
less.
Much the same.
It's literally just a change in stats, really, which is
very much the same. They're just a weaker
difference. It's like 300 gold. It's not a huge difference in stats, but I suppose when it comes to Chariot play, it does make a bigger difference.
The mass, if I remember right, isn't
yes, the mass. Yes,
the mass that gets stuck in a lot more things, which is why I think they're the.
Mass is the same apparently.
Is it?
I don't know if they changed that recently. They're bad on. And they did the glitching. Yeah, I know the models are different shapes, though. I think they have different ways.
Hellflayers have like the big spikes at the side.
Yeah.
They're very wide.
So
they definitely cover more
room. Plays.
They definitely do cover more room. They should have the same model count, I think.
In terms of the tier list, where would you rank both of them differently? Because it is.
I would probably put the cheaper ones at B.
A B, sorry.
Yeah.
And then the
Cheaper
more
ones at
expensive
B
ones
and the
are
health players.
A. Alright, well that is that for the tiers. Do you think there's anything that needs to be moved around? Do you think anything deserves that coveted S tier beyond the spear Hellscourges?
Oh, you need to put it back up because YouTube is so delayed. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's look.
That coveted S spot. I personally might put the the 1000 gold Seekers of Slaanesh there maybe. So I do see those brought a lot, and they are at the very least in the current period of time dealing with armor and they do magic damage. Like I don't think there's many matchups you don't bring
I'm
them.
just looking between the Seekers or Demonettes, maybe? Demonettes are still a unit I bring every single game. Both of them are brought as often as each other. I'll maybe bring 1 or 2 units of Seekers.
But would you bring Demonettes? I can't think of a matchup you wouldn't bring Seekers. Is there one?
I can't really think of a matchup you wouldn't bring Demonettes.
I mean, Ogres or Tzeentch.
Surprised how well Demonettes kill Ogres.
Tzeentch?
I still think they do really well against each. What's the other option?
I guess just spamming shields and cheaty Marauders and then going cavalry.
Your
mess.
Run shields, unfortunately.
My poor shield.
My poor shield.
Why Tzeentch?
I'd probably say I'd probably give Seekers the S over Demonettes. I'm trying to think about.
For the coveted S.
Do I want them an S?
We can also put Demonettes up there as well if you want.
Nah, I don't think Demonettes are quite an S. I'm quite happy keeping Demonettes. I don't think they're worth an S tier. I think I try and think of S tier being something that just the whole army, it just benefits the whole army so goddamn much, having them just exist.
I think when it comes to looking at it, you have the two sides of the coin. Hellstriders and Slaanesh are good for killing everything cheap, isolating single cav, and then the Seekers will kill everything else.
For the expensive stuff.
Yeah, the more expensive stuff you want to run down.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. With that, I think... Actually, you know what? We could quickly go over the leadership as well. Let's go over the leadership, since this is especially a short one.
Leaders.
Because it's only one. I'll make sure to put that in the title when I upload it. So first we have the Heralds of Slaanesh. So the magic laws they get are Slaanesh and Shadow. We won't go into detail on the laws specifically, but which one do you think is better in general? Laws? Do you think the law of Slaanesh that good, or do you just bring Shadow most often?
So the way the lords for Slaanesh, you basically have 2 lords, and you decide which magic lore they want.
Yeah.
I'd say you do definitely pick the difference. So Shadow is a lot better for dealing with, in my opinion, the 2 standard army. So I like Shadow way more for Kislev and Cathay, because Pendulum is absolutely broken for killing all their lines of archers and infantry and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then on the opposite side of that, for blobs, I prefer Slaanesh because it has tools for slowing stuff down and see when you generally fight blobs, there's those really big meaty units that have lots of stats and things like that.
Yeah.
You can use acquiescence on them and just drain all their melee attack, melee defense, speed, make them way easier to hit, and flank and just kind of hammer and anvil.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the shards, slicing shards, which is
a very good
massive damage.
The same damage that the Tzeentch ability does.
That is a very, very good spell for dealing with blobs. And even single entities, see if you overcast it, it actually does pretty good damage to single entities.
Fucking rain fire on them. This is the rain of fire spell, the one Lord's fire gets, so yeah.
Yeah, so honestly speaking, I think the lore of magic wise, it's actually quite balanced. I don't think I would probably separate the lords in terms of their magic. On a tier list,
just bring them on the same list.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't separate them on a tier list. I would separate them via the type of lord. So you've got the Herald versus the Exalted Keeper.
So the Exalted Keeper is the big scary demon, whereas the Herald you can put on mount. I mean, I think always you bring the Herald on a steed, unless right. I don't think bringing on a chariot is a super good idea. Is it?
Maybe in future when there's dwarves and things that exist, but right now, no. I think it's just there. There's nothing really that you'd need your lord on a chariot for.
As for standout abilities and items, of course, being a generic herald, you get the portal glyph, which lets you summon 2 units of furies.
Helpful.
Helpful.
I'd say the Furies are, as much as Furies I don't rate highly compared to other Furies, they are still, once again, your only viable option.
This one just summons 2 generic Chaos Furies.
Yes, absolutely. So that's
ones.
So given that they're like your only way of dealing with air units,
yeah. You could also just skip bringing Furies in the base army and bring this one for the 2 summons, and rely on that to deal with like balloons and shit.
Although that is dangerous.
Any stand out with the abilities for the Herald, like Locus of Grace, but beyond just like the other stuff they get?
I don't really find myself bringing the items or anything. I can't remember the name of it, but there is it the Herald of Grace where it's the AoE?
Locus of Grace, AoE, melee defense, and physical resistance.
That one's pretty helpful.
Especially against those non-magic dealing factions.
If you're running her around with your cavalry and things like that, it makes them a lot more durable.
Yeah, I can imagine
it'll tank a lot better. Arcane Conduit is Arcane Conduit. It's also,
the stuff.
Like they're just good. I think Locus of Grace is just helpful. It's just a good addition. But in terms of items and stuff, additionally, I'd just say the Portal Glyph is the best thing that she gets about her. Is just it gives you more help dealing with that thing that you suffer.
It should have been that the Herald of Slaanesh, like, still really good in melee, still good at stats, and if you put on a Seeker, she gets armor piercing and like extra speed.
Yes,
and also really cheap as well if you drop enough stuff off her.
She is also, like, in terms of putting her on her cavalry and running around with the cavalry, she's not a hindrance there. She will run around with your cavalry and do a lot of work.
Yeah, do a lot of help, supportive, or otherwise.
Especially if you put her against like a mage hero, she gets up against like Catherine, for example, she will slap her if she's not on a bear.
Slap. Looking at Exalted Keepers, these guys are obviously a lot more expensive. They don't come with any extra items, but they do get a lot of abilities.
Yes.
You get a lot of stuff. Can you give us a quick walk through some of those? So first, Glamour of Slaanesh, just a nice little infinite hex. Yeah,
so generally speaking, overall, with the Exalted Keepers, they're discounted Nakaris. In all honesty, I think I don't think there's a scenario where I've brought the Exalted Keeper of Secrets Slaanesh over Nakari.
Right, yeah. You might be tempted to bring the Shadow one, but if you bring in this,
the Shadow one, I think. Yeah, the Shadow one, I think, is probably the one of these two that I would pick. The Shadow one, the Slaanesh one, I'd just take Nakari over.
Yeah, instead, Nakari just being like a huge stat increase. Of course, really expensive Nakari. He does get his really big hitting item sword though.
Yes, if you can. I don't know if they ever fixed it. I'm going to be honest. I haven't played in a couple of weeks or so, but there was that bug that I noticed where he attacks too early and his animation doesn't connect. I don't know if they ever fixed that, but man, microing him is not fun.
It's fun, so fun. Yeah, really good. He also gets a Lord Sniper.
Oh yeah, he does.
Melee attack and 40 melee defense decrease. So you can tell this guy is just your assassin. Full-blown assassin.
Yes. The Exalted Keepers are very similar. They have the magic, but in terms of what they do, they're also extremely fast. The Slaanesh one, for example, gets very similar abilities. The AoE Hex that gives I believe they get the Rampage ability as well.
Which one's that? It's
the Exalted Keeper should have it.
Yeah, the Seductive Glory. Minus 24 melee defense and activate Rampage.
That is just a great debuff. Rampage in an army where you want to hammer and anvil things, in most situations, hammer and anvils are great if you get them, and it's always what you play for. Against people that know what they're doing, like you might get the setup, but then they might notice it. So then they'll try and do something to get away from it.
If they're rampaging, you can't do anything.
Yeah, if Rampage, especially when it's an AoE Rampage, and you just trap units or you stop a unit getting to where it needs to be, is just, I think it's incredibly useful. The only weakness of the bigger ones and why you sometimes don't see them compared to the Keeper, or the Herald, is that it is really easy to shoot.
and also not that even that healthy for like 8,000 HP for a target of that size isn't that good.
Yeah, it's quite squishy. So especially if there's a lot of range units, or if you're against Zinch, for example, who just flies over you and just destroys you with missiles, the Herald is just harder for him to hit. You can hide her under trees and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, whereas the Exalted Keeper is just a much bigger target.
Yeah, so I think it depends. Against factions that are more melee orientated, I think there's not really any reason to not take the Exalted Keeper
Or
or
Nakari.
the carry.
Yeah.
But against those factions where you're really worried about getting sniped or worried about keeping them safe, the Heralds are a better pick.
So to be honest, like with Slaanesh, the leadership is all pretty on par. Like, there's not really anything
They are
too bad or too good. Like other
because
factions.
they're so similar. I'd say that. Like normally with other factions, you're like, this lord's good at this one sucks. You never bring this one. All of them are very on par. I feel they're very equal to each other.
Yeah, they have their places.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What would you think? Like, would the best? I might put the Herald one at the best spot. Just for a lot more flexibility in terms of like you're not getting roped into something too much, and you're also not dedicating a lot of your money to one sort of area. For as good as Nakari is, he's very expensive.
He is very expensive. I would say in terms of how often you bring them, like we've been doing with the rest of them, I would say the Heralds are probably the more common pick.
Yeah.
Followed by, I'd say the Exalted Keepers and Nakari are kind of the same.
Yeah,
I think if you had to separate them, I'd stick the Exalted Keeper of Secrets of Slaanesh as the lowest.
Yeah.
Because he's the one I bring least. I think Nakari's just better.
Then Nakari's better in the middle, but more expensive as well. So yeah. In terms of heroes, there's not an awful lot to talk about. Cultist is just good, and the other two are just bad.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We can leave it there.
Yeah, okay, bye guys. Taking a bit more of a look.
I'm good with that.
So the Cultist gets to summon Demonettes, but she's also got an anti-infantry bonus. Sticking 2 of them on a horse will do really well, in my experience of stuff.
Yes, they will.
That will kill like a lot of stuff. There's not a lot that does very well unless you're taking some like dedicated sniping tools off to try and kill these 2. It's quite hard to deal with them. Like, you take off their other abilities. Tormentor Blade is there. Pendant of Slaanesh isn't even really needed. You just drop everything else.
Everything but the
Summon.
And you can keep. Don't wrong. You can keep Slippery. Maybe not in the current meta with keep Deadly Onslaught. I don't really think there's a time where I'm constantly going back to them and popping Deadly Onslaught for charges and things like that.
Yeah,
I'd put them in melee and just kind of let them do their thing. They're kind of their own anchor as well. Like we discussed the the anchor units for Slaanesh.
Yeah.
The heroes do that just as well. You can just run them into a unit and then summon your demonettes behind them, and they act as their own anvil.
Yeah, I mean they have 55 melee defense, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's just that they act as their own anvil, and they've got a summon to do the hammering for them, and then even though it's 40 melee attack, which is considered low for a hero, as long as they're against infantry, it's fine because they get the bonus to infantry. So they still hit extremely often as well.
Yeah.
So they do good.
Now I didn't even know these things were called Alluruses. These are the caster generic versions of the things. Yeah.
I don't really know what the redeeming quality of this unit is. That's another just unit that I don't recognize.
They have a locus of swiftness, which increases speed of nearby units. That's it.
I don't think anything above your unit already goes so fast.
Yeah, I don't need to go 125. Thank you very much.
Don't get me wrong. 125 is definitely
yeah, that's a lot. But it's like, why would you need to go that fast?
Ludicrous. But that is basically the question: is when you think about map layout, it's so rare that you're going to have your hero with your unit that you need to have 125% speed on, and also that actually helps with the map layout. It's just it's such a it is a cool buff and it sounds good on paper, but in terms of actual practicality, it's just something that isn't that useful in my experience.
So yeah, Cultist Slaanesh good, other one bad. There we go.
Yeah,
didn't even know they were called Alluruses, but there they are. That's the
if you had like a lord that didn't have magic, they would be.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That would be more necessary. But the fact that goes for all the demons is the fact.
Even if they had a different lore of magic, like see if they got access to fire or something.
Yeah, that's what ogres have, where they get a fire belcher that makes it so much better to bring it instead.
Yeah, but they're the exact same lords as your other two, and
just not bringing them.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there'll be factions in the future where it'll come out where you might need Slaanesh and Shadow because the spells will synergize really well against this one faction. Could be good, but right now.
Yeah, right now, no. Alright, well that is it for the Slaanesh tier list. I shall put this in the chat later. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Alexis, for helping out. Oh, master of debauchery. The based one, as they say.
The based one.
Alright, well, I'll see you all guys next week. We'll do some replays of looking over some Slaanesh stuff, so I'll have some stuff prepared for that next week. See you guys. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.